All right, so we're going to try this out, see how this model works of um, reading or sharing or um, speaking out loud the things that will help me prepare for the E.P.P.P. Um, and just uploading this to different platforms. So let's see how this goes. And today, so preparing for the E.P.P.P, the examination for the professional practice in psychology, it just requires a solid understanding of a broad range of psychological theories. And I'm saying this for my own benefit. um, and I'll be sharing today about psychoanalysis. While Sigmund Freud is the foundational figure, this beast of an exam often tests the knowledge of the key followers of Sigmund Freud and the subsequent developments in psychodynamic thought. I'm going to just talk about some of the psychoanalysts, excuse me, their related theories, and the things that I'll need to know for the E.P.P.P, as well as just some foundational knowledge for the practice of therapy in general. And it's more important that I don't try to memorize these concepts verbatim, but rather know the theories, like how they would be applied to situations, because that's what the E.P.P.P will be asking. So here we go. Um, the foundational psychoanalytic theorists, starting with Sigmund Freud, and I'll go into later details about each one if it's necessary. Okay. So Sigmund Freud is considered the father of psychoanalysis. And his core concepts include structural model, the id, the ego, and the superego, and knowing the differences between those. The topographical model, the conscious, the preconscious, and especially the unconscious, because we know that Freud talks a lot about the unconscious. The psychosexual stages of development, the oral, anal, phallic, latent, and genital stages, and why those are important. And defense mechanisms. Defense mechanisms, like some of them include repression, denial, projection, displacement, sublimation, and there are several others. A few others that I'll fill in for myself later. Uh, and other key concepts include the Oedipus and Electra complexes, and dream analysis. And with dream analysis, incidentally, I'll be talking about Carl Jung in a little bit. And that's where Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud began to disagree on things. And manifest versus latent content. And then the big one uh, for the practice of psychotherapy, as well as lending itself to other domains on the actual exam, transference and countertransference, some of the foundational concepts that keep us in sort of ethical balance. Um, so, and then with the neo-Freudian and post-Freudian therapists, these are the theorists, they either built upon Freud's work or they diverged from it, and then just placing greater emphasis on social and cultural factors, or the ego's role. So first, well, not first, but um, Carl Jung is the founder of analytic psychology, and his concepts include the collective unconscious, which is a shared, inherited reservoir of memory traces from our humanities and human beings from the history of our species. Um, archetypes, which is universal symbolic patterns, such as the self, the shadow, and anima and animus concepts. Uh, excuse me. Personality types, which is Carl Jung introduced the concepts of introversion and extroversion. And then there's Alfred Adler, which is the founder of individual psychology, and his theories focus on striving for superiority. The primary human motivation for in order to overcome feelings of inferiority, human beings, we strive for superiority, and not in any like bad or good ways. Just if we don't feel adequate enough in one area, like say work, and we want promotions, for not just for financial, um, like financial escalation or mobility, but also just for our own sense of self and for us to feel accomplished. And there's also the inferiority complex. There's the feelings of worthlessness that can arise from a perceived weakness. And Alfred Adler also focused on social interest, which is the innate potential to cooperate with other people to achieve personal and societal goals. So the next one would be Erik Erikson, known for his psychological stages of development, which expanded on Freud's model to cover the entire lifespan. So the Erik Erikson introduced psychosocial stages, and it's a series of 8 stages, each with central crisis to be resolved, like trust versus mistrust, identity versus role confusion, and also assigning different age brackets to each particular stage. And then in another video, I'll be going over the psychosocial stages, what they are, and what crisis that they're trying to resolve, along with their the age that were assigned to them from Erikson. And then next there's Melanie Klein, who she's a major figure in the development of object relations theory. And object relations theory focuses on how early relationships, particularly with primary caregivers, shape personality and future relationships. And other key concepts from Melanie Klein are the paranoid schizoid position and the depressive position. And then there's Margaret Mahler, known for her work on separation individuation, a key process in early childhood development where the child develops a sense of self separate from the mother. And then next there's Donald Winnicott, is another object relations theorist, and he came up with the good enough mother, the true self versus the false self, and transitional objects. Then there's Heinz Kohut, founder of self-psychology. So self-psychology focuses on the development of the self through empathic mirroring from the primary caregivers. The key concepts are narcissism as a normal developmental process and the importance of self-objects. And then there's John Bowlby, a psychoanalyst who developed attachment theory. While Bowlby is not necessarily a psychoanalytic, attachment theory is not strictly a psychoanalytic theory in the Freudian sense, but it is a crucial developmental theory that grew out of psychodynamic traditions. And attachment theory is the theory that focuses on the emotional bond between an infant and a caregiver and its impact on lifelong development. So for the E.P.P.P, we need to understand the core tenets of each theorist's work, how they differ from Freud, and how their ideas apply to personality development and therapeutic interventions. This will be critical for answering questions in domains like growth and lifespan development, treatment, intervention, prevention, and supervision, even in the legal and ethics domain. So, um, so more on each theory and each theorist for psychoanalysis later. Right.